In a world that often feels increasingly chaotic, emotionally charged, and riddled with interpersonal conflict, the need for calm, clarity, and composure has never been more urgent. Every day, we face people who drain our energy: the manipulators, the narcissists, the chronic complainers, and the provocateurs. These individuals, often referred to as toxic people, can hijack our peace of mind, distort our focus, and pull us into emotional turbulence. But what if you had a timeless compass that could guide you through the storm? A way not just to survive these encounters, but to thrive with serenity and inner strength? Enter Stoicism, a 2,000-year-old philosophy forged in the fires of ancient Rome and Greece, practiced by emperors like Marcus Aurelius, freed slaves like Epictetus, and statesmen like Seneca. Stoicism isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about mastering your emotions, understanding what's within your control, and cultivating an unshakable mind. In this video, we'll explore 13 Stoic practices that can help you rise above toxicity, maintain your inner peace, and turn difficult people into stepping stones toward greater personal power. Get ready to rethink your approach to negativity, not with aggression, avoidance, or suppression, but with wisdom, courage, and profound self-mastery. Let's begin. 1. Focus only on what you can control. At the core of Stoicism lies a simple but life-changing idea: some things are within our control, and others are not. This principle comes from Epictetus, who taught that most of our suffering doesn't come from events themselves, but from our opinions about them. When dealing with toxic people, it's easy to feel frustrated, offended, or angry. But the truth is, you can't control how others behave, only how you respond. Their actions, words, or energy. That's on them. Your reactions, choices, and emotions? That's your domain. Imagine someone insults you. A Stoic doesn't immediately react. Instead, they pause, reflect, and choose a response aligned with their character, not their impulses. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their chaos, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. If yes, handle it with clarity and calm. This mindset creates a psychological fortress, one where toxic people can shout all they want, but their noise can't shake your inner peace. 2. Practice the dichotomy of control. Let's take the concept of control a step further. The Stoics introduced the dichotomy of control, a tool that sharpens your emotional resilience. Here's how it works. You divide your world into two categories: what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your thoughts, judgments, values, and actions. You cannot control other people's opinions, the past, external events, or random chaos. Toxic individuals thrive on reaction. They want to control your mood, provoke a reaction, or manipulate your beliefs. But when you operate from this dichotomy, you become untouchable. You begin to see their tactics not as personal attacks, but as noise outside your fortress. You stop trying to fix them, argue with them, or win them over. Instead, you use every encounter as a chance to exercise your virtue, the Stoic's highest aim. So when someone disrespects you, you respond with self-respect. When they lie or manipulate, you stand in truth. That's Stoic power: calm, deliberate, and immune to drama. 3. View toxic people as teachers. Here's a radical Stoic idea. What if every toxic person in your life was actually a teacher? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, challenges aren't obstacles, they're opportunities. A toxic boss teaches you patience. A manipulative partner reveals your boundaries. A gossiping friend forces you to examine your values. These people expose the cracks in your emotional armor, not to destroy you, but to show you where to grow stronger. When you adopt this mindset, you reclaim your power. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a student. Every insult becomes a test of your composure. Every provocation becomes a mirror for your self-discipline. The Stoics believed the world was your classroom, and life with all its messiness was your curriculum. Toxic people? They are just part of the lesson plan. Pass the test, and you don't just rise above, you rise within. 4. Detach emotionally, engage rationally. Emotions are natural, but emotional reactivity is optional. The Stoics trained themselves to be emotionally aware but not emotionally hijacked. When someone yells, criticizes, or plays the victim, your initial reaction might be anger or defensiveness. That's normal. But the Stoic doesn't stop there. They observe the emotion, pause, and then choose a rational response. This is what Seneca called training the mind to be stronger than the passions. It doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you approach conflict like a surgeon with precision, not panic. Here's a powerful Stoic technique: delay your response. If you feel triggered, don't speak or act immediately. Let the emotion pass like a wave. Then respond with clarity, not heat. Over time, you'll notice that toxic people lose their power over you because their energy thrives on reaction, and you've stopped feeding it. Emotional detachment isn't indifference, it's self-mastery. 5. Set boundaries with compassion. Stoicism isn't about tolerating abuse. It's about protecting your peace, with courage and compassion. Setting boundaries is a Stoic act of virtue. It says, I respect myself enough to guard my time, energy, and values. Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. The people around you influence your mindset. So if someone is consistently draining, dishonest, or destructive, it's your duty to create distance. But boundaries don't have to be harsh. You can say no without anger. You can step back without hostility. You can protect your space and still wish them peace. Think of it as tending to your garden. You remove weeds not out of hatred for the weeds, but out of love for what you're growing. When you set boundaries as a Stoic, you honor both yourself and the other person because you're choosing integrity over enmeshment. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates designed to protect what matters. 6. Master the art of silence. In a noisy world filled with opinions, reactions, and provocations, silence is a superpower. The Stoics often emphasize the value of measured speech, and even more, the wisdom of silence. Epictetus advised, be silent for the most part, or speak only what is necessary. Toxic people often bait you into arguments. They thrive on emotional reactions. But what happens when you simply don't respond? When you pause, observe, and choose silence over drama? Silence sends a message. It says, I am not here to be manipulated by your chaos. It protects your energy. It gives you time to think. It creates space for truth to surface without forcing it. In practice, this means, don't argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. Don't explain your worth to those who devalue it. Don't react to every slight or insult. Sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. Choose your words like a sculptor. Speak less, say more, and when necessary, say nothing at all. 7. Live according to nature and reason. The Stoics believed that to live well, one must live according to nature, meaning, in alignment with reason, virtue, and the nature of humanity. Toxic people often act against reason. They lie, manipulate, and provoke from places of insecurity or ego. Your task is not to mirror that dysfunction, but to remain grounded in your higher nature. Ask yourself, what is the most rational, virtuous response here? Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That's the Stoic filter for action. You are not responsible for fixing others, but you are responsible for maintaining your integrity. You can choose wisdom over impulse, patience over anger, truth over popularity. When you live by your nature, your reason and values, toxic behavior can't derail you. It simply becomes background noise to a life of purpose. 8. Don't take things personally. Here's a Stoic truth. Most of what people do has nothing to do with you. When someone insults you, spreads rumors, or treats you unfairly, your first impulse might be to take it personally. But the Stoics saw this as a trap. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you always own the option of having no opinion. Toxic behavior is often a reflection of someone's inner turmoil, not your worth. When you internalize their issues, you give them control over your emotions. Instead, remind yourself, their actions reflect their character, not yours. You are not obligated to suffer for their immaturity. What they say or do is outside your control and irrelevant to your inner peace. This is not detachment out of arrogance, it's protection through understanding. To the Stoic, personal offense is a choice and you can choose not to take it. 9. Use Premeditatio Malorum, premeditation of evils. The Stoics had a powerful mental technique called Premeditatio Malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This practice involves anticipating adversity not with anxiety, but with preparation. Before entering a situation, imagine what could go wrong. Prepare your mind for insults, provocations, or difficult conversations. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." So before a meeting with a difficult colleague or a visit with a toxic relative, reflect. What might they say? How might I feel? How will I stay composed and virtuous? This technique makes you emotionally immune. You're not surprised, you're prepared. You've rehearsed calm, patience, and detachment in advance. Toxicity thrives on unexpected reaction. But when you've already seen the storm in your mind, the real thing barely shakes you. 10. Walk away without hatred. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to hold on to bitterness to walk away. In fact, letting go without hatred is a sign of maturity and inner strength. Toxic people may never change. They may continue their behavior, blame others, or deny their impact. But you can choose to remove yourself, not in anger, but in alignment with your values. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've chosen peace over perpetual conflict. Do it with dignity. No revenge. No long-winded explanations. No need to prove your point. Your silence, distance, and peace are louder than any argument. And you leave the door open not for them, but for your own growth. Release them not because they deserve peace, but because you do. 11. Practice daily reflection and journaling. The Stoics believed in daily self-examination. At night, they would reflect on their actions, choices, and thoughts. Seneca asked himself, "What bad habit have I cured today? What fault resisted? Where can I improve?" Journaling is your private dojo, a place to refine your mindset, track your triggers, and reinforce your values. After interacting with a toxic person, write it down. What happened? How did you respond? What did you learn? How will you handle it next time? This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Your journal becomes a map of growth. It shows you where you were reactive and where you were composed. Over time, you'll notice your emotional armor strengthening. Reflection turns pain into perspective and experience into wisdom. 12. Embrace voluntary discomfort to build strength. The Stoics trained for adversity by embracing voluntary discomfort. They would take cold baths, sleep on the floor, wear humble clothing, practice poverty. Why? To prepare their minds, to reduce their fear, to build resilience. Toxic people often disturb us because we've become too accustomed to ease. A single insult can ruin our day because we haven't trained our minds for challenge. Try this. Go a day without complaining. Engage with someone difficult without reacting. Practice patience when it's most inconvenient. These acts build your mental calluses. They train you to endure discomfort without losing yourself. Voluntary hardship leads to involuntary strength. And when you are strong, toxic people lose their grip on your peace. 13. Cultivate inner virtue above external validation. In a world obsessed with opinions, the Stoics taught, what matters most is your character, not your reputation. Toxic people often try to undermine your self-worth. They seek to control you by approval or disapproval. But Stoicism flips the script. You live not for applause but for virtue. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Let your worth be measured by your honesty, your patience, your consistency, your calm under pressure. No one can take these from you, not the critic, not the gossip, not the manipulator. When you cultivate inner virtue, you rise above all external games. You become centered, grounded, and free. Because in the end, the greatest revenge against toxicity is becoming untouchably whole. You've now explored 13 Stoic practices to deal with toxic people, not with hate or avoidance, but with wisdom, restraint, and mastery. Stoicism doesn't promise a life free from difficult people, but it does promise that you can remain free no matter what they do. Choose control over chaos, reason over rage, silence over drama, virtue over validation. And as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Thank you for watching. Stay centered, stay sovereign, and always rise above.